Hello and welcome to Woke Watch, an ongoing series of videos where I find the wokest stories on the internet and then pick them apart. And today we'll be looking at a very common trait among the woke brigade. That being, when there's any sort of disagreement, invariably they support the wrong side. Meet Dr. Sydney Watson, an Australian-American right-wing commentator and successful YouTuber. Now, although my political beliefs don't align with hers, I watch most of her content because she's intelligent, she's articulate, and she's very funny. And I think it's important to listen to other people's point of view, and that's the opposite of being woke. They just want fucking echo chambers. The more opinions you hear, well, it helps you become a more rounded person. And it's two extremely round people that got Sydney into the news this week. Recently, she took a 3-hour internal flight in the USA and found herself in a middle seat between two morbidly obese siblings. She offered the brother her seat so he could sit next to his sister, but he declined. And she spent the entire flight effectively being crushed. During the flight, Sydney took a couple of photos which she put on Twitter. Now, it's important she didn't show the faces of the people either side of her, but the mob came for her. Because the siblings were African Americans, and of course Sydney is a white woman with a healthy body shape, she's fairly pretty and she's successful. She's the perfect target for far left fucking morons. It'll come as no surprise whatsoever that she was called a racist, a bigot, and accused of body shaming and being fat phobic. But many people said that if she had a problem with fat people, she should have bought a first class ticket or paid for 2 seats. And this is where the woke mob gets it wrong. Because if we look at Sydney again, she can clearly fit into a standard airline seat. Whereas the morbidly obese, people who've done that to themselves because their only exercise is shoveling food into their mouth, chewing and then shitting it out again, they are the problem. You know, when you go to the airport, often before you get on the plane, you'll have your hand luggage checked to make sure it's not too big or too heavy to go in the cabin. If it is, weirdly, they charge you more than put it in the hold of the same plane. Why doesn't the same thing apply to passengers? Because surely those people who are too big to fit into a standard airline seat, they should be the people being forced to upgrade to first class or to pay for 2 seats. Because when I book a seat on an aircraft, I'm not just booking the seat, I'm booking the space that goes with it. I don't want strangers entering my fucking personal space. So some people accuse Sydney of implying that fat people shouldn't be allowed to go on vacation. That's not the issue. Because people who are morbidly obese have become morbidly obese through their own actions, and sadly actions have barbecue flavoured consequences. Yet, because woke people have their hierarchy of victimhood, with Sydney being a straight, cisgendered white woman, she had to be the aggressor. It didn't matter that the people either side of her were so obese that she couldn't lower her tray table. She couldn't use the facilities she'd fucking paid for. And I look at it like this. Throughout that flight, there were 2 people touching a woman against her will, ergo without her consent. And if some of their fat rolled over onto one of her very perky tits, that is sexual assault. If I did that in the street, at best I'd get slapped round the face, and at worst I'd be doing at least 6 months at His Majesty's pleasure. In a way, I can relate to this story, because a few years ago I was flying back from San Francisco, and next to me was a German woman, who immediately fell asleep once the plane had taken off, and then started crying in her sleep. So I did everything I could to move as far away from her as possible, making it clear whatever's happening here has got fuck all to do with me. Yeah, that was a fun 9 hours. As ever, thanks for watching.